Good morning. It's June 29th. This is to my liberal friends. Well, we're at the end of June, and that means a lot of Supreme Court decisions are coming down. Earlier this week, on Tuesday, the justices ruled that state courts can act as a check on their legislatures in redistricting and other issues affecting federal elections, rejecting arguments by North Carolina Republicans that could have transformed contests for Congress and president. And this was a 6-3 vote that upheld the decision by North Carolina's top court. Now, what's interesting about all of this is here the court rules the way liberals and Democrats would like it to rule. And so everybody applauds this. Everybody says this is a great decision. But then later on, the court comes down with a decision on religious rights. There, the court said that a Christian mail carrier who didn't want to work on Sunday to solidify his religion, well, workers don't have to be if they can ask for religious accommodations. It was a unanimous decision. And the justice made clear that workers who ask for those accommodations, such as taking the Sabbath off, should get them unless their employer can show it result in, quote, substantial increased cost to the business. Now, this is a key decision because it's setting the tone for religious rights in this country. And once again, it was a unanimous decision. And so it's pretty hard for the liberals to squawk about that. But today, the court came down with one that got everybody excited. They struck down on affirmative action in college admissions. They declared race cannot be a factor and forcing institutions of higher education to look for new ways to achieve diverse student bodies. This case was against Harvard University and the University of North Carolina. Now, previously, the court had allowed the use of race in admissions in decisions reaching back to 1978 and has twice upheld race-conscious college admission programs in the past 20 years, including as recently as 2016. Now, however, with a 6-justice conservative majority, the justice overturned admission plans at Harvard and UNC, which is the nation's oldest private and public colleges, respectively. Chief Justice Roberts said it was too long. The university have concluded wrongly that the touchstone of an individual's identity is not challenges best skills built or lessons learned, but the color of their skin. Well, the people that benefit most from this are Asian Americans who have put in the work, scored the high scores, and when they apply to these top institutions around the country, they don't get in at the same rate because these schools are looking for some kind of affirmative action to increase their diversity. Now, I will tell you that diversity is good for any educational process, but it cannot be the overriding factor. We have to be a meritocracy. If we're not going to be that, we're just dumbing down the whole society. And that's not going to get us where we want to be. Now, tomorrow, everybody expects the Supreme Court's going to come up with the real big one. But going back to the case on affirmative action, Joe Biden immediately denounced it, calling this is not a normal court. But more interestingly, he goes on MSNBC and is interviewed by Nicole Wallace in a live interview. And she lobs softball question after softball question at the president, allowing him to get his points in. But what was interesting, she ends her last question. They're still live on TV, and Joe gets up and walks around the stage. I don't know where he went. Somebody should have told him, stay there until it's over. We'll come and get you. But Joe, in his own way, just gets up and wanders off. And as I mentioned, tomorrow they're going to come down with the decision on Joe Biden's plan to wipe away or reduce student loans. And these are held by millions of Americans. This was arguments that were heard in February, and the plan didn't likely survive. I suspect that they're going to tell Joe Biden, you don't have the authority to do that, because he's proposed erasing $10,000 in federal student loan debt for those with incomes below $125,000 a year. Think about that, $125,000, or households that earn less than $250,000. You're earning $250,000 and you can't afford to pay your student loans. What about the people who didn't go to college? They're earning far less than that, but you're asking them to pay with their tax dollars the student loans that you racked up. And now you're going to say, I shouldn't have to pay these because it hurts my standard of living. I can't buy the big house I want. I can't drive the new car. Well, I'm sorry. You borrowed the money, you got to pay it. And I suspect tomorrow, when the court comes down with that decision, it's going to be in favor of making these people pay these loans. And so all of these decisions have come down. They did have one on gay rights this week that was a little bit interesting. In this case, the court said that you have to respect what somebody wants to do. And they sound sympathetic to Smith's arguments. It's probably get decided tomorrow. And we'll see what happens there. But basically it says the cake business out in Colorado. Somebody doesn't want to make cakes for gay weddings. Well, I'm sort of split on this. I mean, if you're in the open business, then maybe you should just be required to do it. But at the same time, that side, the LGBTQ plus, whatever alphabet soup they're using this week, they can't demand that you accept what they want simply because they want you to accept them. They don't want to accept your rights, so why should you accept theirs? But this is going to be a tough decision. It's funny. What would happen if a business decides to discriminate by not serving blacks, Jewish, or Muslim customers? Then I think it'd be pretty plain. But this one's a tough one. And I think the court may end up upholding the Colorado court in this case. The court's it's funny though, this court being called, there's a bunch of conservative people, they're right-wingers, and yet time and time again, this court has shown it's to be a moderate court. Over and over. Well, this has been To My Liberal Friends. I appreciate your listening. If you enjoy the podcast, recommend it to your friends or hit the subscription button, and we'll stand by and see what the court does with these final decisions tomorrow.